Firstly, colleagues, here are the ground rules. Ground rule number 1, I'm asking everyone to mute. And then number 2, I'm asking everyone to get off the video. Please get off the video, because the video, number 1, if it's on, it affects your data. It also affects the general program. So I'm asking Patricia and Lungiswa, please get off the video too. Unless, and I'll just maybe become like a taxi driver and say, I am not proceeding unless everyone is off the video. Can I ask Patricia and Lungiswa, please get off the video. Otherwise, I'll ask our IT to kick you off. I can see Patricia and Lungiswa, please get off the video and mute. All of us should be muted. Thank you very much, colleagues. Does it mean Patricia no Lungiswa bangizwa? Yeah, I don't think they can hear me. Welcome to this information session. It's not compulsory that you attend the information session. So it does not mean that if you have not attended, we will not accept your application, but it's in your interest to attend so that you can have a better idea of the program besides what you read on our website and so on. So I want to welcome everybody on the platform, including the colleagues from NDA as well. To start off with, colleagues, I want to say that this is the second phase of the volunteer program. I can see that there's a few of us who were part of the first phase during hard lockdown. We really want to thank you for your participation. Can I ask everyone to mute? Can I ask everyone to mute?
Okay, fine.
Can I ask everyone to mute so that we can I really ask everyone to mute? Yeah, we had tried with a platform wherein all of us would be muted, but it had problem in connections. Hence, we are starting 1.5 hours late. And apologies to those that were on at 10 and trying to log on. I hope most of you are on now. And thank you for your patience. We just had a very technical. I'm talking alone. Yeah. Let me bring myself to myself. I don't know to what extent you heard me, but I was saying that. Thank you very much.
Volume.
Yeah,
thank you, volume, please.
Thank you, apologies. I was saying that thank you very much and apologies for those that got on at 10 o'clock at the appointed time. We had some technical problems and colleagues were struggling to connect. Hence, we had to send you a new link. And thank you for your patience and apologies. I hope everyone or most of the people who were connected at that time have been sent a new link and they are on the platform. This information session is not necessarily compulsory. So no one, even those that are not able to connect, will be able to apply based on the information that is on the website. Let me start off by saying that, of course, this is the second installment of the volunteer program run by the NDA. I can see many of you who were in the first one, who we are in the process of paying for implementation of the first one. Let me assure those that were in the first program that we are working flat out to make the payments, which we will make, hope to make by the closing date of this one, which is the 18th of February. I'm gonna ask you, those that were in the previous program and are still owed for the extension last year, I'm gonna ask you to send your latest banking details to your provinces, who will then forward it to ourselves, because it's taken more than 6 months. So those banking details are now old. So we want new banking details so that we are sure that we are paying to the correct bank, to the correct banking account. So I'm gonna ask you to do that. And also to thank you once more for coming on at short notice with that implementation. It happened during hard lockdown. It was a very difficult time, but the volunteers and yourselves as the CSOs came on board and did a very beautiful job. And there is no doubt of the impact that your work had on the sector as a whole, including SASSA and DSD. So we really appreciate your participation in that program and look forward to working with you going further. May I once more ask that we get off the video. As I indicated, the video affects the quality of the platform and also affects your data. We would like to see all people, but at this stage, I'm asking that we get off the video and mute. Tshireletso ya batho, please get off the video. And Lipilane Neo 2, please get off the video. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have requested for proposals, and we are doing it in this manner because one of the issues that even led to the delay in the payment of the extension was the question of how the CSOs were selected. So we've opted for this very open process where we ask for new proposals. We request for new proposals from the sector to be part of implementing the volunteer program in all provinces for a period of 6 months. I'm not going to go through the NDA and what we do. I'm assuming that all of us know that. If not, you can visit our website and get to know more about the NDA. This program is part of a bigger program that is funded by National Treasury for the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package in response to COVID-19. The NDA received funding from Treasury to implement this program. We were supposed to finalize the implementation of this program by March 2022, and we are hoping that by March 2022, we shall have at least contracted all the successful CSOs to implement the program. So colleagues, I believe that you have terms of reference. I'm gonna go through them. If you have them with you, you can also go through them, but you can also go through them at your own time. I'm not sure whether Lonwabo is able to share the terms of reference. Lonwabo, are you able to share the terms of reference? Okay. Yeah, can you share the terms of reference? And go to page 4, please. Are you able to give me powers or what control? Yeah. Make it bigger a bit. Go to page 4 and make it bigger a bit.
You should be able to move it, Mr. Mtembi.
Yeah?
You have control of it.
I can't. Oh. Yeah, it looks like I can't. Just help me out. Go to page 4 for me. And make it bigger if you can. Page 4, which says.
Yeah, you'd have to do it on your side. I've relinquished control to you.
Oh, okay, but I can't.
If you go at the bottom right at the bottom, you can increase the font from there. From 100, yes, there you go.
Okay. Okay, oh, it's now big, too big.
Then you can decrease at the same spot.
Okay. Okay. All right. Scroll down. Okay. Yeah. Let me stop control. Can you help me, Lonwabo? I'm struggling. I've stopped control. Yes, the purpose of the RFP is that we want to partner with 100 CSOs, civil society organizations, including NPOs, cooperatives, and other registered CSOs, who will provide and manage a total of 2,300 volunteers across the country. These volunteers will be requested or expected to provide services in townships and rural areas in all the 52 districts of the country, in line with the district development model. The 100 CSOs will be engaged for a period of 6 months to be paid a monthly stipend, and the volunteers will be paid a monthly stipend of 1,800 Rand, and the CSOs will be paid a monthly management fee of 500 Rand, 5,000 Rand, not per volunteer, but 5,000 Rand to the organizations. The role of the CSOs, 4.2, yeah. The role of the CSOs will be to screen and recruit the volunteers, identify the sites for implementation, liaise with local SASSA, DSD, and other government officials. The CSOs will be expected to provide day-to-day management of the volunteers, to collect daily attendance registers, and collate these registers and submit to the NDA in the province, including monthly reports. And then to also do the payment of the monthly stipend to the volunteers. So we will transfer the money to the CSO. The CSO will be the one that pays the volunteers, because the volunteers will be contracted by the CSO or employed by the CSO. We'll see as we also explain the criteria. And the role of the volunteers, amongst others, there may be other roles that we agree on, providing services to government or providing government services. But the main roles for now is to support SASSA with the intake of the 350 social relief of distress grant, particularly in rural areas and townships. The grant is likely to be extended again. Facilitate advocacy to upscale vaccination in partnership with the Department of Health. Gather data on vaccination uptake within the sector at the district level. Gather data on 350 access within the sector and the impact that the 350 is having in communities. Facilitate behavioral change in communities for compliance to COVID-19 protocols. Facilitate referrals to SASSA to resolve challenges that there may be in the 350 grants, and disseminate correct information in local languages to build community awareness. And as I said, there may be other roles as well that are expected. The 100, I won't go through the next table. You can read it on your own. I think in the terms of reference, I won't go through it. But the table provides the table in page 6, going down a bit, Lonwabo. The table provides the breakdown per province of the distribution of the volunteers and the number of CSOs. This information, colleagues, is based on the number of people that are receiving social grants by province. So there is an analysis of the number of people or percentage of people that are receiving social grants, and that then translated into the number of volunteers that we will need, as well as the number of CSOs that we will need. The qualifying criteria, colleagues, is that the applicant must be registered with the Department of Social Development as an NPO. Yes.
Sorry, Chair, for interrupting and for injection. I believe that you might not see the hands that when people are raising their hands. I'm trying to assist you in terms of that, if you allow, Chair.
No, can I make the presentation? We'll have a time for questions.
Noted,
Because
Chair.
if we open questions now, we will not finish.
Noted, Chair, you may proceed.
There's about 200 people on the platform.
Hi, sorry, I understand
So,
that we would like to do questions later, but some of us just logged in now and we missed half of the presentation.
Yeah, the presentation, I just went through the terms of reference, which I believe you have. So I understand that, but we have been struggling all morning, and some have been on the platform since 10. So we are trying to speed up time. We are doing our best to make sure that no one is left behind. What I did with the presentation was just to I simply went through the terms of reference. Okay. Thank you. Can I proceed and say that the qualifying criteria is that you must be registered as an NPO, and also you must not have been deregistered. But we are saying that as long as you are a CSO in good standing, you may be also registered as a trust or as a non-profit company, as an NPC. You will qualify. However, if you are an NPO, you must not be deregistered with the Department of Social Development. You must have a constitution and a functioning governance structure. You must have previously implemented a project that is aimed at the social development sector. You must have previously implemented a project aimed at the sector. You must have qualified staff members to manage the volunteers. And you must have a local presence to manage the volunteers in the province or in the district. So you can't be operating from another province and wanting to recruit volunteers in another where you don't have a local presence. You must be directly responsible for the preparation and management of the program and not acting as an intermediary. So the appointing the organization that applies must be directly implementing the program, no intermediaries. You must have connectivity and the tools to communicate and report. You must have been operating for more than 1 year. You must have sound financial statements with audited financial statements or a letter from an independent accounting officer. Moving on, colleagues, to the criteria. I think you will read the criteria on your own as you prepare your application. Due to time, allow me not to go through the criteria, but we will take questions on the criteria for evaluation that is on there, where we are looking at measuring your past experience. Let me just go through it quickly. We will measure your past experience. We will measure your proposed approach, design, and methodology. We will measure the capacity of your team to implement the program. We will also look at your footprint in the district or province where you want to implement. I think let me pause there and then move on to the application form itself, going through the application form itself, and then we will have time for questions. We have developed an application form which provides a guide on what we want to get. In the application, the grant application form itself in page 2, the biodata there where you tell us about what type of CSO you are, your legal status, your registration number, the sector where you are operating, your location, your physical address, contact persons. Kindly ensure that you fill in on this page. And also the next page is what I will call your program. Of course, it's a volunteer program, but you might want to, maybe you are an organization that is implementing a myriad of programs, and you have a program that is the justification, where you will provide information on why you want to run that program in that location. 1.7 will be looking at your methodology. And number 2 will be looking at your expected results. And then the next one will be looking at the description of the applicant. It should be number 3, actually, not number 4. Apologies, where you are describing who you are and telling us about your organization, when you were formed, what are your main activities, where you tell your management structure. Then the next section looks at your capacity to implement the program. And then you also tell us about other grants that you have. And the last one will be a declaration that you sign. So colleagues, that's the presentation from our side in terms of the terms of reference and the application. I'm gonna now ask, I'm not sure if on the platform or Lonwabo to just assist me with.
You have muted again. You've
Someone someone muted me.
Sorry,
I
Mr.
don't know.
Mtembi.
At
We
one
muted
point,
you.
someone muted me.
Yes, sorry,
But-
that was on our side trying to switch off all the mics. Sorry, Mr. Mtembi.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Up to what did people hear me?
You wanted me to assist you.
Oh,
We'll go
at that
to the
point,
question and
yes.
answer
Oh,
session.
okay. Yeah, so I'll ask Lonwabo to assist with the question and answer session by regulating that in terms of people asking questions and the responses from our side. I'm here with colleagues. I'm here with Tando Ngase, who will also assist in the questions as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mtembi.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtembi. Colleagues, I'm going to ask that we please make sure our I see we've got some people have their cameras on. Mr. Stembiso Mabuza, if you can please just switch off your camera for us, sir. Mr. Stembiso, if you can just switch off your camera for us, it will assist us a great deal. We've got a few hands. I will call out and you can then ask your questions. If we can please keep our questions short and directly to the point so that we get through all the questions. I will take 5 questions for each round. And then after asking your question, if you can please put down your hand. I've got Apostle plus Shane, if we can start with you. And then Sen Kosinati, and then we've got Solomon afterwards. And then we've got Bonginkosi. And then the last one will be Lungile Ngwenya. We'll start with those hands first. In that order, that's Apostle Shane, Sen Kosikona, sorry. Then we've got Solomon, Bonginkosi, Mashinini, and then our last speaker will be Lungile Ngwenya. If we can please ask in that order, and if we can keep our questions short and to the point, and then we'll go to the next round.
Thank you very much. I am Shane Garikwa from the Northern Cape. I would go straight to my question. Good day to everybody. In the instance of the Northern Cape having a lesser amount of NGOs to be taken in, will it be prioritized by the NDA to have that fairly divided between the 5 districts when they select NGOs? Thank you.
Sen Kosikona. Colleagues, please remember to have your mics muted unless you have been indicated to speak. Please make sure your mic is off. Ngosikona, you are next. Zanele Mbuli, if you can please switch off your mic. Ngosikona, if you can unmute and ask your question, please. Ngosikona? Okay, let's skip Mr. Ngosikona. I think he's
I am unmuted, but I don't know if I'm audible that side.
I can hear you, sir.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I've missed some information prior to the presentation, but I will also be very happy if one can have access to the presentation so that one can interact with the documents. That will be one. And also, the second one will be the concern that I have with regards to the pending CSOs from the last projects that NDA had. Has that been addressed, dissolved before we have any new uptake, or is that left on the side? I'm not sure if I'm the only person that is left behind in terms of update on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Solomon?
Mr. Chair, I'll take off from the last speaker's comment. I know you mentioned the date about the payments on the outstandings. That I just need to know, I didn't get the actual date that you said by when is the date in February going to be. That's one. The second question is, when is the starting date for this program? Three is what guarantees this time around, having suffered, having had this experience where we've had the whole year without payments being made. Now, what guarantees are we to have that this time around we're not gonna be these bad people in front of the volunteers, because we are the face of we are the face to the volunteers, and the volunteers are looking at us as the people who over the last 12 months made them not to get their money.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll go to Bonginkosi Mashinini.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. I just joined not so long ago. We had challenges with the link that the lady had shared with us. So I would like to request that the presentation is shared with us as soon as practically possible, so that we can actually align our documents with what is actually required, and also the application form, because I could not access the application form on the thingy, on the website. And then secondly, is that, you know, for some of us, our NPOs, you know, we only registered through CIPC, but we have made, you know, we have registered again with DSD. So obviously I noticed that the turnaround time for DSD is 2 months. So in our applications, would it suffice that we indicate the application reference number so that you guys can track it? Should we be successful in terms of registering? And then again, the third one, I think the last speaker has covered it. When is this project expected to start? And also, what are the guarantees that a number of NPOs will actually be provided this opportunity to ensure that they create an impact in the areas where they are actually located? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And then the last speaker for this round is Lungile Ngwenya, and then we will get answers. And thereafter, after those responses, we'll go to the remaining hands. Lungile Ngwenya.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Lungile Ngwenya, Area Manager for NICRO Eastern Cape. My question is simple, really. It's around capacity building. Given the fact that there is funding which is available to actually manage volunteers, I just wanted to check, is there any amount which should be factored in for them to be capacitated? Because really managing volunteers can be a tedious process. But for them to be effective in whatever that they do, are NPOs allowed really to actually provide capacity building to these volunteers? Because I saw in the terms of reference, you said NPOs are going to only get 5,000 per month. Does it mean that 5,000 is the only amount that will also cover for their capacity building, or are there any other funds that are there that can be utilized maybe when we are developing the budget specifically for them to be capacitated before they actually go and implement whatever that they'll be implementing within the communities? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Mtembi, we've also got Tando that's here. I think we've got Dr. Bauer as well. I'm not sure who else is here that will be assisting with the questions. Can I ask that while Mr. Mtembi starts and responds, that maybe Thando, you can have a look at some of the comments and questions that are on the chat box, and maybe we can also respond to those. But I think the one I saw so far is covered in what has been asked Mr. Mtembi around. I think Thando will have a look at that one while you respond to the 5 questions that have been asked.
All right. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for those questions, colleagues. I think they are very important questions. Hopefully they can clarify a lot of the issues. I think in such settings, things are more clarified through questions than the presentation itself. So thank you for those questions. The first question was the status of the Northern Cape in terms of whether we will try to ensure that all 5 districts are covered. Yes, we will try to ensure that there is a spread so that we cover all the districts in the Northern Cape or in all provinces, because we must implement this program, must have a footprint in all the 52 districts. So that we will in the selection and so on, we will take that into account. The access to the presentation that I've made is the same, is the terms of reference that is in the website. So we will not necessarily, there's no separate one. It is I actually went through the terms of reference in the website, as well as the application form and also the advert. So we will not necessarily, there's no presentation, it's just the terms of reference. The question of pending payments, you know, I know that the extension payments have really put a blot on the reputation of both the NDA and yourselves. I have indicated that, you know, we would have implemented this program maybe 6 months ago, but we were still struggling with the issue of the payment of the extension, which I believe we have now resolved. Hence, I said that we are working flat out to make sure that by the time this one closes, we have paid. I did ask that colleagues who were in the extension and payments are pending, I've invited you to humbly, I know that we have asked you this before, the provinces have asked you this before, but I'm humbly asking that you resubmit to your provincial offices your latest bank details so that we are able to proceed with the payment. I'm confident that we will do the payment this time. In terms of what guarantees we have that this program will be paid, I think our track record, besides the extension, and I'm not in any way, you know, undermining or downplaying the problems around the payment for the extension. Our track record for before the extension, when we were implementing the program in 2020, showed that we have the capacity to ensure that the volunteers are paid once all the documentation that is required is submitted. And the one guarantee that we have that it will go right this time is that we have learned lessons from that extension. There are things that we could have done better. One of the questions that was always being asked was, how did you select the ones that were extended? So the very fact that we are now having an open request for proposal already answers that question, which was a big issue in that process. So we are confident that we have learned lessons, which will allow us to ensure that this one runs smoothly. In terms of when are we starting, we must get funding agreements with the successful CSOs signed by the 31st of March. And then after which we will then start with the implementation of the program. So we are anticipating that the program will start to be implemented in April or May. we will, and then it will run for 6 months after that. The application reference number. I just wrote application reference number. I've forgotten what the question was there. If Tando or Lonobo can help me, I've just written application reference number. I've forgotten what the exact question was. Colleagues can help me. And then there was a question.
It had to do with them awaiting the.
Oh,
response
yes, that they are
registration.
waiting for application. They've applied for NPO status there, and non-profit organizations or non-profit companies that have been operating for 1 year or more are eligible. Those that have not been operating for 1 year or more will not qualify. So that's the criteria. You must have been implementing a program or existing for 1 year or more. So that's the sort of answer response to that.
Sandy, sorry. Ubongani mentioned the fact that they are registered with CIPC, and I wanted to find out, are they cooperative?
Just to answer there, ma'am, no, we are in NPO. Can you guys hear me? Yes,
Yeah,
we
we can hear
registered
you.
an NPO through
we can hear you.
CIPC.
NPO through CIPC.
Yes.
All right. I think submit if you have those registrations.
Yes,
you
yes.
have the certificate to submit.
Okay,
We'll
no problem.
consider it. Yeah, we'll
Okay, no
consider.
problem. Thank you.
We'll look at it. And then there was a question around capacity building. The funds that will be provided, yes, it is only 5,000 Rand a month for the CSOs to manage the volunteers. There's no other funding. We will also provide PPE. The PPE is not in the 5,000, it's a separate budget for the PPE. We will also provide the PPE. In terms of capacity building, we will be in a position to provide capacity building to the CSO itself through our normal capacity building program. But we're expecting that the CSO that is being appointed has the capacity to submit or to appoint volunteers and then be able to train them on the work that they need to do. Hence, there will be, it would be an advantage if you have run a public employment program such as the EPWP also, because in that way you do have that capacity to manage a program like this. So no, there won't be a funding for capacity building for the volunteers, but we will provide capacity building through our normal capacity building program to the CSOs. I think that was the end of the first round. No. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mthembi. I see Tando is also responding to some of the questions on the chats. She will continue responding there. We are going to take another 5 hands. Colleagues, please let's make sure that we listen attentively. If our question is covered, then let's just make sure that we put down our hands. The rules for the questions there again, please make sure your question is short and to the point, and we will try and get through everyone. We are going to then have the next 5 hands. Biza Linkopane, Innocent Masego, Valencia Andrews, Struan Robertson, and Catholic Development Center. Those are the 5 hands in that order, please. Biza Linkopane, Innocent Masego, Valencia Andrews, Struan Robertson, Catholic Development Center. Biza, you can go for it.
Thank you, Chair. I think part of what I would have raised is covered by the latter speakers. But one, I wanted to check in terms of the allocation per province as to whether is the application supposed to be district-based, or can it be across the province depending on the capacity of the NPO in our case? 2, I also want to check in terms of the requirements in the application. When you were never funded and yet you've been rendering services through sponsorships, what is it that will be needed, because you might have not collected cash but have been involved in rendering services that talks to addressing social ills. What is it that you'll have to submit? Can you just submit a letter that confirms that you have not audited because you have not collected, yet you are more than 2 years existing and rendering services through donations and sponsorship? I think other questions that I wanted to raise are covered. Thanks.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Innocent Masego.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Innocent Masego from Modern Community Foundation. I just quickly want to ask, I think Bita has asked the first question in terms of the application to say, as an NPO, can we apply for the entire province, or are we only supposed to apply per district? And the second question would be, what has informed the decision to pay a flat rate of 5,000 Rand per CSO, and whether that 5,000 is either per volunteer that will fall under the NPO, or it's a flat rate, say, whether you've got 20 volunteers or 5 volunteers under you getting a flat rate of 5,000 Rand. Those are my 2 questions. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Innocent. Valencia Andrews.
Some of my questions have been answered. I've heard another lady also mention the fact that if you have not been receiving anything from any whatever, like from maybe you have not been funded by any other organization, but you have been rendering services, what is it that can be, what will be the requirement then from our side? Because then also one other thing is, when you have applied, I hear you talking about we should be having 1 year. So when we have been practicing for more than 1 year, 3 to 5, 10 years, and yet you find that maybe you have been practicing under the NPC, of which is also acceptable, you find that you apply then for the social development for your certificate of the NPO. It takes now so many times up until you turn the period. So now, why should you be penalized because it was not your problem of delay? And of course, in terms of the audited statement. So if you have not been making so much, but we have been rendering services, like the lady said, rendering services through private sponsorship, and you don't have bank statements. I mean, you only have bank statements instead of audited financials. So I think some things like that should be able to be considered. And the last but not least will be the resources. In terms of your 5,000 that you're talking about, I would also share the same sentiment that my brother just said, to say, is it per every person inside the same organization, or is it for the organization as it is? And are the resources in terms of your telephone calls, transportation, is it covered to make sure that implementation is being made? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Struan Robertson.
Thank you, colleagues. Just to assist, the application and the TOR is under the newsroom tab. Just I see there's a lot of comments that say, where can people find it? On to my questions. The PPE was covered, but I'm wondering if there's a separate budget as well for stationery that volunteers may need, such as your printing costs or those kind of things, as well as data bundles, because the 1,800 may be too small for a volunteer to have to pay for their own pocket for data, and also the 5,000 is too small for the CSO to have to pay for data bundles. And then just on the information gathering, is there any help there with a separate budget for analyzing the data or information management? Because that it looks, if you look at the aims of the project, that it's not only just gathering the information, but also assessing whether there was behavioral change or there was uptake. So I'm wondering, where does the monitoring and evaluation come in? So I think the question of the 5,000 has been covered a lot. So I'm just curious of if you can clarify more detail. Is it per district? Is it per province, etc.? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Just a reminder again to all colleagues currently on the line, please make sure you keep your mics muted unless you have been given the floor to speak, so that we are able to hear well. I will now ask TK from the Catholic Development Center.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. First of all, we welcome the program, and whether the money is high or low, welcome the program. It will relieve those who are in dire need. Chairperson, my question regards to the role of volunteers. The first bullet speaks to supporting social relief of distress grant, particularly in rural areas. Our experience in the last program, we had volunteers in the deep rural areas, but everybody was getting paid the 350 in town, in the post office. There was no program, or there was no payment happening in the rural areas. So does this mean in this round, there will be 350 payments happening in the rural areas, because there were none? If not, then we are going to face similar problems we faced last time, where we had our volunteers traveling from their villages to town because everything was happening at the post office in town. So I just needed a bit of clarity on that. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. I'm just noting, as well as Struan was advising as well, a lot of people are asking about the application form and the terms of reference, which is on the website. Struan has shared the direct link that's there. I'm going to repost again the link where you are able to download the application form and the terms of reference. As Mr. Mtembi has indicated, his presentation today is the actual document, which is the terms of reference. So if you get the document from the website, it is the presentation that has been presented here today. But what we will also be doing is that we will be posting this briefing session as well on our website. So under our videos, you'll be able to see later this afternoon this video, for people to also then see the presentation that has been done by Mr. Mtembi, and perhaps also be assisted by some of the questions that have been asked here. I will then, yes, I'll go to Mr. Mtembi. We'll pause there on the questions so that we can get some responses. We'll go to Mr. Mtembi. And can I ask that we make sure our mics are off? Lacasta, if you can please make sure that your mic is off, sir. I will now hand over to Mr. Mtembi and Tando. I'm not sure who will start. I see Tando is assisting us, Mr. Mtembi, on the chat box.
All right. Okay. Is he responding to questions?
Yes, she's responding to questions that are on the chat box. So she's responding to those who are not.
Okay, so she's gonna. What I'm asking is whether she's responding on the chat box or she's verbalizing. those questions?
Maybe let's check with Tando first. Maybe let's start with Tando if she wants to just highlight some things.
Okay.
We'll come to you, Mr. Mtembi. Tando, over to you. If there's
We are really, like, I'm literally repeating myself on the chat box. The application form is on the website, and I've actually written it now word for word to say, when you go on our website, you must check under the section that says news and adverts, and then there's an article there that speaks to the appointment of CSOs to implement the volunteer program. When you click below there, it will take you straight to the TORs and the application forms to the article, and you go down and you'll see there's 3 things there. There's the advert that you saw, that's how you're here, and then there's an application form, and then there's terms of reference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tando. Mr. Mtembi, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Tando. Thank you, Ronoba. Thank you, colleagues, for the questions once more. Let me go through them. Can you implement across the province? Look, the 5,000 management fee is set, and that's it. It can be increased because the program is meant to maximize employment. So we had to put more resources and get more people on that because it's funded through the presidential employment stimulus. It is not necessarily, how do I put it, a program, but it is to ensure that more people, particularly young people, get on that program. So hence, it is only, the budget is very, it's leaning towards ensuring that we can pay the stipends and employ 2,300 volunteers across the country. So ideally, in the past program, ideally it was an average of 10 volunteers for that 5,000. So that's it. If that's what you should be looking at to get, but you can't have 5 applications from 5 districts as one organization. So try to focus on one district and see how far that 5,000. The 5,000 is your management fee. We are not anticipating that it's got any other costs. I mean, management could include stationery. I hear the issue around whether there's a budget for information analysis and M&E. No, there's no budget for that unless you can do it out of that 5,000. When we contract, we will then come into an agreement on what are the types of things that we will require, the reports that we will require to be covered. The issue of data bundles, the past implementation in some provinces, I know, we got into some relationship with SASSA, who would then provide for data bundles and so on. I know that people's experiences are different, but we will then have to negotiate those things once, but it is not expected that the 5,000 would cover data bundles. Neither is it expected that the volunteers from their stipend would also be expected to pay for data. So those are things that we can then negotiate, particularly together with our counterparts, SASSA and so forth. The issue of if you only receive donations and you have no funding, and therefore you have no annual financial statement or any financial report that can be provided by an accounting officer. I think that would go to your capacity. So I think these things will be scored differently. We'd look at your capacity if you've been implementing a program and how successful you have been in implementing that program. That would stand you in good stead. We are not necessarily expecting annual audited financial statements, but some indication of financial management. If you are an NPO, you must be submitting reports to DSD and so on as part of compliance. So those kinds of documents would provide us with an indication of the capacity that you have. There was a question of whether there will be payment of the 350 grants in rural areas. No, that's out of our hands. That's a SASSA issue. As I said, SASSA is very interested in the success of this program. We will then, when we have the briefing for the implementation, together with those that will be appointed, SASSA would then come in and the DSD would then come in into that discussion as well, because they are very interested in us implementing the volunteer program. So there will be partners in it, and then those things can be discussed at that time. I think I've covered the questions for this round.
Thank you, Mr. Mtembi. Let's go back to then the hands. I've got 5 hands that are here, and this will be the last round of questions. I'm going to urge that if there are others who have questions, they must continue typing on our chat box. Utando is assisting us with responding to questions there on the chat box. But for further inquiries beyond this meeting, we are also going to be sharing an email address where people can then send their inquiries. We've got 6 hands that are currently here, and then we'll take those. We've got Sbongile. I've got Sbongile. Then I've got Nogupumla, Jalimbi, David Mukwena, Vuyo, Zintle Mbelu, Sindiswa, Datini. Those will then be the people who will be asking questions. We'll start with Sbongile. Can I ask again, colleagues, please make sure your mic is off. Please assist us by making sure your mic is off unless you have been given the floor to speak. Please make sure your mic is off. Sbongile, over to you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Sibongile. I am from Kanisirani Development Trust in Kokstad. I have just one question. My question is that how is the money going to be administered this time? Is it going to be transferred straight to the NPO before the month starts? Or is it going to be per report? As soon as the NDA receives the report, then the money is going to be administered. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sibongile. Nogupumla Jalimbi.
Hello, I'm
Yes.
Nogupumla from the Dodrek Legal Advice and Community Development Agency. I also have one question, is about the provision of PPEs. On what form are the PPEs going to be provided? Is it going to be extra money for buying the PPEs, or is the PPEs going to be sent to the CSOs? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We then move to David Mukwena.
Thank you, Chairperson. Seemingly, most of my questions, the questions that I wanted to ask, some of them have been responded to. But what I wanted just to check with NDA, in terms of the training, in terms of the reporting templates and tools, because my experience previously with NDA, we were informed that there was another project that we were involved in with NDA, where we were informed that we can report with any tool that we usually use to report. But along the way, there was a change of tune. So now we were required to report according to the NDA. So I was just appealing that at least after the service level agreement have been signed, at least that the training should be conducted in terms of how to report and also the reporting templates and tools. So I think that was what I wanted to get the clarity on. How are you going to ensure that the reporting is consistent with the NDA reporting templates?
Thank you very much, sir. Vuyo, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the report. The presentation, it looks good. It gives direction. Thank you to NDA on that one. But I would love to suggest more than any other thing else, based on the experience that we've been involved in the previous, program with the NDA, the voluntary program, that we are here to support SASSA. But SASSA last time, could not do, very well in terms of assisting in that voluntary program. Why? Because sorry for that. We submitted to them that they need to give volunteers, the data bundles, and they agreed on that one. We informed the volunteers, they had expectations, and that was not done. That was one thing. And then the other thing, when it comes to 350, there will be a lot of people, queuing in the post offices. And those people, some of them are old, some of them, they would need, ablution facilities. But you'll be told, like in the area of Bedford, it's a small area, that no, the policy does not cover that, so we shall not have, ablution system. Whilst, if the nature calls, so it's difficult, for it to understand that there'll be such. So I would suggest, to NDA at least to prepare, a preparatory testing for SASSA, to engage them and make them to understand that there will be this program, there will be these challenges, so that when we are involved in that particular area, so they are well prepared, they do understand. Then the other aspect in terms of the training that Mr. Ntimi has, indicated on, that they are going to deal with the capacity issue. This was said that SASSA is going to train, some of the volunteers that were appointed. But, that training could not take place. Instead they were just, registered. So those are some of the key important aspects, so that we need to make sure that this has got an impact. Volunteers have learned lessons in this one, so that we are not dealing, with just a program and then it ends there. So we need those things. So I would highly suggest on that one. So my name is Vuyo Fane from Nkosima Qoma Foundation. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, sir. Zintle Mbelu.
Thank you. To Zintle Mbelu from Uzenzele Action Group. I have a question about partner NPOs. If you have other partner NPOs, can you apply for it for them? And if so, can you do the participants, NPO participants increase, and the 5,000, do we get 5,000 for each NPO or for just this one NPO? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Cindy Swadatini.
Cindy Swadatini from Masizame Training Center in PCM. I've got two questions. The first one is already asked, but I didn't hear the answer. How many volunteers per NPO? This is the first question that I have. The second question is there any age limit to volunteers? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. The last hand that I'm noting, because I don't have any other hands that are here, is Lacasta Choma. Lacasta Choma. Lacasta Choma.
You're speaking to Patricia from Mampuru VEP. So my question is, okay, they just asked now, I heard it's 5,000, but I want to know for how long for the NPO. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are all the hands. I've noted as well that the colleagues who have asked questions on the chat box, thank you very much for asking your questions there. My colleague Tando is attending to those questions as well. So thank you very much. Mr. Mtembi, if I can hand over to you. I'm also noting that Utando has responded to some of the questions that have been asked because they have been asked on the chat box, the issue of the 5,000, what the 5,000 is allocated for. She has responded to that question. She has also responded to the question that has been asked in terms of the numbers of volunteers. She's responded to that question as well. So Mr. Mtembi, if I can hand over to you then to respond to the other questions.
Okay, thank you. I think some of the questions are here as well. So maybe if you can verbalize your response on what the 5,000 Rand covers so that we have one. For administration costs, as I indicated earlier, the 5,000 Rand is for administration costs of the NPO, not for your salaries. Well, if you use it for that, you can't then say, no, we couldn't send the report because we paid the 5,000 Rand to the coordinator. You know, that type of situation. So that's what the 5,000 Rand is for. How will the money be transferred? The money will be transferred to the CSO on submission of the reports and the attendance registers. So even if you have even if you have, for example, 10 volunteers, we will only pay you for those that attended. Those that you have attendance registers for, signed attendance registers for. So we do a collation of the report that you send and then pay or transfer the amount for the volunteer. So it will not be an umbrella figure every month. It will be based on your attendance registers and the reports that you submit. If you have not submitted any reports, you will not be receiving those funds to pay the volunteers. We will then agree on by when we want the reports and by when we will then pay or transfer the money to yourselves in order to pay the volunteers. The PPEs will be provided by the NDA. It is not part of the 5,000. Are there reporting tools? I think Pule asked that question. Yes, there are reporting tools, which we will send as part of the SLA that we will sign with the successful CSO. Yeah, we all raised the issue of engagements with SASSA. I think it's a very important issue that we need to manage that part. Yes, we will ensure that SASSA at the implementation meetings and those kinds of things, they will be present to ensure that the program runs smoothly. But again, I think we will, through our provincial managers, the discussions with SASSA will also take place through the provincial managers because there are different dynamics in different provinces, which should be taken care of at that level. And I think in the last implementation, there was a lot of work that was done between our provincial managers and colleagues in the NDA province, as well as SASSA. So we will continue to do that. Can you apply through a partner NPO? I indicated that the applying NPO or CSO should be the one implementing. There will be no intermediaries, so you can't have intermediaries, particularly because the management fee is what it is. If you introduce intermediaries, you are adding more costs and so on. So we would prefer that you have a presence in the district, in the municipality where you are implementing, and not work through intermediaries. How many volunteers per NPO? As I indicated in the last program, there was an average of 10 or so volunteers per NPO. Is there an age limit? There is no age limit, but it would be preferable that more young people are employed through the program. And so you'll determine as a CSO who you recruit as volunteers, but this should be people who are able then to do the work and are able to ensure that you are able to report on time. There's no age limit, but of course, preferably young people should be employed. And how long is the program? The program will run for 6 months from the time of signing the agreement with the successful CSO. Thank you, Lonov. I think I covered all the questions that were asked in this round.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtembi. We have answered all the questions in terms of the hands that we had, and Utando has assisted us as well with answering questions on the chat box. Just a reminder again to colleagues that we will make this recording of this session available on our website. You'll be able to access this if you want to go back to the recording. If you want to go back to the recording and get more information there. I will ask Bomig, I think Mr. Mtembi, it's Bomigazi who's taking the inquiries. Emails go to her.
I think in the advert,
yes.
there are different email addresses for all the provinces.
Oh yes.
So preferably, please do use the email address for your province that is in the advert, because as you can imagine, you'll get a quicker turnaround. Colleagues sometimes think that when they call the national office or inquire from the national office, they get more, but the implementation is happening at the provinces. So do use those email addresses that are in the province in the advert, and make your inquiries there. And also to say, there's not necessarily any further information that we have except what is in the website. So there will be and what was provided, the clarity that was provided today. So we believe that after today, you are confident, you are more confident to go back and respond and put together your applications. So please utilize those email addresses that we have provided. Yeah, and then should I explain the other procedural things?
Yes, please go for it, Mr. Mtembi.
The closing date is the 18th of February for submission. Those application forms should be sent via email or delivered at the NDA office or the provincial offices. However, there's provincial offices, colleagues will help me, our provincial managers are on the platform, and thank you very much for joining together with all the colleagues from the provinces. There are provincial offices that are not that are closed, will be closed or during the time when you are supposed to be submitting. The Northwest office and I think the Limpopo office, I stand corrected, but I think the Limpopo office as well. So for those, we would prefer that you send them by email or send them to the national office. And apologies that those offices are not able to physically receive your application forms, but all the other offices are able to. Gauteng is also sending to the national office, so it's the same address. The Gauteng office is based here at the national office. I think colleagues, provincial PMs, that's it. Is there any other province that is not able to receive physical applications? besides Limpopo and Northwest. Yeah, I think those are the two offices that will not be able to receive physical. So please do send by the deadline. We'll be very strict with deadlines, colleagues, and explanations or excuses such as my email was not going through will be very difficult to accept, because that would mean that you wanted to send at 5:02 and there was load shedding at 5:02. So in order to ensure that are on time, please do attempt to send as soon as possible. Don't wait until the 18th. Do send as soon as possible. I believe it's a very straightforward application. Does not require any other thing. We don't even want a budget, because the budget is already set. It's 5,000 per month per. So there's no need for even a budget. Hence, in the application form, there's no budget template, because we don't need it. The 5,000, you choose how you use it, as long as you ensure that you use it to manage the program. I think I have answered all the or gave a Tando, any addition from your side, or provincial managers or colleagues, in terms of where do we go from here?
Nothing to add, man.
Thank you. And as I've said, those that are outstanding for the extension, please submit your latest bank confirmations to your provincial offices so that we can process that quickly. Is there a proposal template? Yes, there is an application form in the website. Thank you, Lonwabo. I think that's it from us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtembi.
Thank you very much for chairing so beautifully and ensuring that all the colleagues are able to ask their questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtembi. Thank you very much to colleagues. I see those who have asked questions on the side. We have concluded answering their questions on the chat box. A reminder again that this video will be available on our website. And we apologize again for the technicalities that we had in terms of the link to this meeting. But thank you very much to all colleagues. Do have yourself a wonderful weekend and a great afternoon. Thank you very much. We will then end this session for today.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.